Hello, and welcome to Now Where Were We? A series of short videos about the history of Olympia, Lacey, and surrounding areas. Your host for this program is Deborah Ross. In this series, Deb takes us to locations that inform us about the history of our community. She also visits with local historians. We welcome your feedback and suggestions.
Hello, and welcome to Now Where Were We? An ongoing series of short videos about the history of Olympia, Lacey, and surrounding areas. I'm Deborah Ross. Today is the last episode in our second season, and also the last episode in what I've been calling iconic intersections. That is, intersections that speak to some theme of our area's history. Today, we're on the beautiful Capitol campus of Olympia, Washington. And our time will only permit a short introduction to the long and interesting history of our beautiful campus. Before Europeans arrived here, this area was an encampment of Nisqually tribal members. Unusual because most of the area was settled by members of the Squaxin tribe. In a previous episode, we visited Sylvester Park, which was named after one of Olympia's co-founders, Edmund Sylvester. Sylvester donated the land for Sylvester Park and much of downtown Olympia, but he also donated several acres to what would be the future site of Capitol Campus. It took a few years for Sylvester's vision to become a reality. The first few years of territorial status, the legislature met in what is now the Port of Olympia at the site of the bread peddler downtown. But in 1856, a two-story classical style structure with a cupola was built here. And in that same year, Olympia's first territorial governor, Isaac Stevens, built his so-called mansion nearby at the current site of the World War II monument. Although it was framed as a mansion, it was in fact a rather modest structure. Nevertheless, Isaac Stevens invited the entire population of the city of Olympia to attend the inauguration of his new structure, and it was by all accounts a gala event. The two-story structure was the seat of the legislature and the seat of all government activity until statehood in 1889 and then beyond statehood. But it soon became apparent after statehood that that structure was not suitable for a growing state and a growing government. And so the decision was made to build a new building. Architect Ernest Flagg was hired to design the new legislative building, and construction began in the early 1890s in front of the existing legislative building. But the timing couldn't have been worse. A nationwide recession hit our country, and construction had to come to a screeching halt, leaving a gigantic hole in the ground in front of the existing territorial capitol. A few years later, in 1897, funds were appropriated to complete the construction of the building. But again, it was not to be. Governor John R. Rogers, a fiscal conservative, vetoed the appropriation of funds for the construction of the building, and instead the state acquired what's called the old State Capitol building, now the Superintendent of Public Instruction building near Sylvester Park. And that building served as the legislative building and the seat of the government for several years. Finally, in 1911, decision was made once again to move the seat of our capital to what's now Capitol Campus. And a contest was held to design the seat of the government. This time, instead of a single building, it was determined that several buildings would be built. The firm of Wilder and White was retained and designed the buildings that are now the core structures of our beautiful Capitol Campus. The theme of the buildings reflected the early 20th century's focus on the notion of the city beautiful, a city on the hill that would reflect the civic values of our government and of our country. The first building to be built was the Temple of Justice. Over the next several years, the additional buildings were erected, and the magnificent legislative building was completed in the middle of the 1920s. Its dome is the largest freestanding dome in the United States and the 5th largest in the world. I highly recommend your visit to that magnificent building and to take a tour by one of the knowledgeable docents that can show you the enormous Tiffany chandelier in the rotunda and some of the many, many beautiful features of that building. The Winged Victory that I'm standing in front of was a memorial to World War I and was completed in 1938. In the middle of the 20th century, as Seattle and Tacoma began to outgrow Olympia, many governmental agencies wanted to locate the site of their headquarters in those larger cities. A local booster, Millard Lemon, brought a lawsuit against the state, arguing that state law required the location of all agency headquarters to be in Olympia, and he won the lawsuit. And so beginning in the early 1950s, there was additional expansion of Capitol Campus, both to the north with the General Administration Building, now the Department of Enterprise Services, and the entire eastern side of Capitol Campus on the other side of Capitol Way. That's just a brief introduction to our beautiful Capitol Campus, and again, I do encourage you to come and visit. If you are a resident of Washington State, make an appointment with your legislator sometime during session and take a look at how our government operates, as well as enjoying a tour of our campus. Thank you. Until next time, I'm Deborah Ross.